Welcome, church family. Look, it's not your familiar face up here sharing the word. Funny story, I actually received a text message from Frank last Friday, and he was asking, he goes, "Oh, would you be willing to share the word on Sabbath?" So I responded back to Frank and I said to him, "Hey, look, give me some time to think about it, and I'll get back to you." I'll let you guys on a little secret, okay? So usually when I respond that way, it's most likely going to be a no, okay? It just gives me time to think about it and then think of an excuse. And then I'll probably start writing up an essay to why I can't do it or why I don't want to do it. So I responded back to Frank and I said to him, "Hey, look, I actually can't think of an excuse. I'm actually looking for one. So it'll be an honor and a privilege for me to share the word on Sabbath. So here I am." Look, it's been an exciting week, actually. It's been a very exciting week. Usually leading up to things like this, I start to get very nervous throughout the week. Everything just goes wrong. Oh, well, wrong on my end anyways. Like I start panicking and things just don't go right. But this week was actually really exciting for me. It's been a really reflective week for me in many ways. So yeah, look, today I'm looking forward to sharing with you guys. And yeah, I hope you guys all can take something away from what I'll be sharing today. Okay, so today, and look, I'm new to using this thing as well, so forgive me if I end up missing a slide or going too far ahead. So today is the 5th session in the series iQuit. And as most of you know, we have been learning about 8 things that we need to quit in order to grow spiritually and emotionally mature. Yeah? Okay, so I'm just going to do a quick review. Oh, well, actually, you guys are going to give me a quick review. And look, feel free to give me a summary. I'm happy for you guys to just give me a title as well, okay? So we're just going to go around. I'm going to ask you guys if you guys remember what our first session was. Yes, approval addiction. Peter, I've got something for you, man. Here you go. Woo! Yes. So being afraid of what others think, yeah? All right, cool. What about our second session? Can anyone think of our second session? Quit lying. Quit lying to yourself, man. And look, I've just used Frank's slides from last week, so I'll leave that as it is. Shah? Sorry, you guys didn't get to pick. So feel free to share. If you're on a diet, that's your problem. Awesome. What about our third session? Anyone can give me what our third session was? Quit dying to the wrong thing. So this means that we do not quit the things that are good for us, yeah? Yeah, we don't quit the things that are good for us. So it doesn't mean that you quit exercising or you quit trying to eat well and eating scones and jam and cream. So we stop quitting the things, like we try not to quit the things that are good for us, yeah, like socializing and catching up with our church family. You're on a diet, aren't you? Here you go, bro. All yours. All right, awesome. Who can remember our talk from last Sabbath? Did I hear anger? Yeah. Quit. Oh, I missed the slide. Quit dying to the wrong things. Quit denying our fear, sadness, and anger. Awesome. Do you want lollies? If you don't want it, feel free to pass it around. And look, it becomes very dangerous when we start to express our anger, sadness, and fear. We start to project these emotions onto others, yeah? We start projecting them onto others, and then we start blaming them for how we feel. We start blaming our partners, we start blaming our bosses, we start blaming our cat, if you got one, or a dog. You start blaming your environment. You start blaming everything under the sun, yeah? So look, today, and look, I don't think you guys are ready for this one. I don't think you guys are ready for this one. Do I have you guys' attention? Because today, we are going to learn to quit blaming and instead start taking responsibility we're going to start taking responsibility for our own lives. So I want you to turn to your neighbor and tell them to step up and take responsibility. Step up and take responsibility. All right, cool. We're gonna play a little game, okay? We're gonna play a little game. But before we play this game, I want you guys to point to someone in the room that would be good at this game, okay? This is the only time you're allowed to point to someone. So I want you to point to someone that would be good at this game. And you can't point at me. Okay. What I'm going to do is I'm going to show you guys a few pictures of some well-known Bible stories, and I want you guys to tell me who blamed who in the story. So it's just two pictures, and I want you guys to tell me who blamed who in the situation, okay? Let's go for the story first. Joseph. And who blamed who in this situation, in this story? Yeah, the brothers were blaming Joseph. Yeah. Well, they could have blamed their dad as well, right? Yeah, you're picking the favorite. So the blame could have gone anywhere. All right, this is a classic one. Oh, easy. All right, let's. So this is a three-way blame. Eve is blaming the serpent, and Adam blames Eve. Adam blamed himself. Adam blames God. And you know what? I actually love this story because I resonate a lot with this story in many ways. And for me as a man in this situation, and you guys all know the background of the story, right? God tells Adam, you can do whatever you want in this garden, just don't touch this tree. And meanwhile, Eve is walking around and she's like, hey, let's grab this apple here. Or let's go to this tree here. And the funny thing about it is that Adam is beside her, if you read this in scripture, right? But he does not stand up for his lady. He doesn't go to her, he doesn't go to Eve and say, look, it's probably not a good idea that we, take this, go to this tree. It's probably not a good idea we do this. How about we go this way? Because there's plenty more other trees around here. But the man just stands there. The man just stands there and he lets his woman take a bite of this apple, and then he blames her for it, right? So that's why I resonate with the story a lot. It teaches me to stand up for myself and also for my woman and also for my family as well. Okay. So we're just going to go into a little activity, okay? A little activity. Don't worry, this activity is going to require, just going to be yourself, just you and yourself with activities. So don't worry, you don't have to get into groups or nothing, okay? So can I just get someone to pass around these cards, please? Okay, can you just pass it around? Okay, I want you guys to just pass these cards around. And also these, do you want to pass these pens around too, please? Thank you. Oh, you can just grab one and pass it along if you like. Yeah. Oh, pencils, yeah, just pencils. So just grab yourself a card and a pencil. If you got a pen, that's cool as well. Okay, cool. Does everyone have a pen and a piece of cardboard? Thank you, Joe. Appreciate it, man. I did bring my daughter's pens, but I didn't think I'll get them back at the end of this, so I found some coloring pencils. Okay, cool. Does everyone have one? Everyone got one? Awesome. All right, cool. So I want you guys to hold on to that piece of cardboard and your pencil, because we're going to use it for the second part of our exercise, okay? So feel free to draw on one side if you like, but we're going to use that for our second part of our exercise. Okay, so for the next 2 minutes, and we've done this, so we're pretty good at this, we've practiced this a lot, right? We've always gone into a place of silence before we had gone into the Shema. So this first part of the activity, I want you guys to, we're going to go into a place of silence for 2 minutes, okay? We're going to go into complete silence for the next 2 minutes. And during this silence, I want you guys to reflect on the past week, the past month, or even the past year. And I want you guys to think of a time when things haven't gone your way. If you guys want to go deeper, I want you guys to think of a time where you're consistently blaming someone for how you're feeling. Okay, I want you guys to think of this time. That will be the first part of the activity, okay? So can I give you guys 2 minutes to do that? And I'll grab my phone and we will do that. I'll shoot up the question up here. What would be a consistent pattern in your life of when things haven't worked out for you? Who have you blamed? And I just want you to just place that thought in your mind and maybe pick out, if there's a lot of things that come up, maybe just pick out 2 things. Just pick out 2 things and then just sit on that, okay? Because there could be a lot of things that come through, but sit on the 2 things that just really hit you hard, okay? All right, we're going to give you guys 2 minutes. We'll let you guys go now. All right, awesome. So we're just going to move on to the second part of this activity. So I want you guys to use the piece of cardboard you have in front of you and the pen, and I want you guys to write down what has caused this blame and why. And I want you guys to write this down. What's causing this blame and why? And I'll give you guys 2 minutes to do that as well. Awesome. If you guys are still writing, that's fine. Keep going. But I want you guys to just hold on to that piece of cardboard, and I want you guys to just hold on to it because we're going to need it at the end of our session, okay? So if you're still writing, that's fine. Keep going ahead. That's fine. Okay, so let me share with you guys a few points from the iQuit blaming toolkit that was created by Jerry Scazzaro, from the work of a well-known psychologist. But what I'm going to do is that I'm going to illustrate this through a story from the Bible, okay? And you guys are probably all familiar with this story. It's the story of the woman caught in adultery. So if you guys want to follow along, go for it. I'll give you guys a text soon. But the first 2 points from the Quit Blaming Toolkit is the yes and no medallion, say yes or no, and the hat of wisdom, think carefully. So if you guys want to follow along, the story can be found in John 7 and 8, or John 8, verse 2, or John 8, yeah. But what I'm going to do, I'm just going to paraphrase the story, so you guys can just follow along if you like. Okay, so at the beginning of the story, Jesus wakes up and he starts making his way to the temple. He starts making his way to the temple. He's going to start teaching, and a crowd turns up. Yeah, so a crowd starts turning up. They start listening to Jesus while he's teaching. And meanwhile, the Pharisees and the scribes and the Pharisees, they rock up and they turn up with this woman. They place this woman in front of Jesus and the crowd, and then they ask him this question. Teacher, did I have it on there? No. Teacher, this woman has been caught in an act of adultery. Look, Jesus, she's just been caught in an act. The law of Moses says we should stone these sort of women, right? We should stone such a woman. So what do you say, Jesus? And look, I want you guys to create a visual image. I want you guys to create a visual image of this, right? So Jesus is teaching. This is in the middle of Jesus teaching. Jesus is teaching. There's a crowd there. The scribes and Pharisees turn up, and then they place this woman in front of Jesus. This is the middle of Jesus teaching, and they expect him to answer this question. So what do you think about this, Jesus? This woman has just committed. What do you say about this? Do you guys, I'm going to ask you guys a question. Do you think Jesus would have felt the pressure to give an answer right away? Yeah. Like, we look at Jesus, like, we know who Jesus is, and he probably wouldn't have caved under pressure, right? What about ourselves in this situation? Let's say you're in the middle of your job and you're training someone, and you're in the middle of your training and you're on the roll, and then someone just turns up and just says, and they know you're a Christian, right? And say, "Oh, you're a Christian? What do you say about this?" The pressure in that situation, right? And take into account the crowd is also watching and listening, and also waiting for an answer. So let me show you what Jesus let me show you what Jesus said. Let me show you Jesus' response to the scribes and the Pharisees. This they said to test him, that they might have some charge to bring against him. Jesus bent down and wrote with his finger on the ground. And look, I have no idea what Jesus was writing on the ground. Does anyone know what Jesus was writing on the ground, for those that know the story? Does anyone know what he was writing on the ground? Doesn't say, right? Does anyone? I have no idea. I actually have no idea. Maybe we can save that for Frank, because he loves diving deep into this sort of stuff, right? But look, I have no idea what he was writing on the ground. But what I can tell you is that he did not give a quick response. He did not give a yes or no response. He did not give a... And he models this beautifully. What does he do? He bends down and starts writing on the ground. He models this beautifully, right? His ability to pause, think carefully, and process before giving a response. And you know what? Most of the time when we're in these situations, we are most likely going to give a response immediately. You think in the past year what's been happening here, all right? When someone asks you a question, you're like, "Oh, yeah." You're about to give a response. And then usually when it's the response that we do not like, we can either go back to our partners and we can go back like, well, I'll give you me an example. We'll go back to my partner and say, oh, hey, look, you start getting angry over a situation that you could have made a better decision, but I've just made a quick decision. And you start going back and say, oh, you start getting angry at everyone around, so we won't go into that anymore. But maybe we need to start practicing bending down and writing on the ground. Maybe not in front of our bosses, because you'll be like, hey, what are you doing? But there's many ways you can do this, right? You can always respond back by saying, hey, look, is it okay? Oh, actually, don't ask if it's okay. Say, look, I need some time to think about this. Can you give me 2 minutes to think about this? So you can respond in that manner. You don't have to bend down. There's heaps of ways you can think about it. You can say, I need 2 minutes to think about this, and I'll get back to you. So remember, Jesus said no a lot. Jesus said no a lot. And while my no may make you feel sad, it doesn't make me bad. And I have this bad thing of guilt-tripping myself when I when I say yes to something, when I really want to say no. And the prime example is when I shared in the beginning. So that's our first point, our first 2 points. All right, let's move on to our second point. The oxygen mask of self-care. Take care of yourself and the heart of feelings. Pay attention to your feelings. Okay, so in the very beginning of the story, it says, they each went to his own house, but Jesus went to the Mount of Olives. Now, as you guys may all know, Jesus would often retreat to a mountain, or he would retreat somewhere. It was his place of prayer and healing. It was his place of solitude away from the distraction. It was his place to get away from his busy day of teaching. It was a time of connection to self and God. And look, I know that when I'm in a place of solitude, it gives me insight. It starts forcing me to think and pay attention to how I'm feeling and start reconnecting internally. And when you do this, you start building self-awareness of how you're feeling, and most importantly, the emotions attached behind this, right? And the more and more you place yourself in silence, you start conditioning the way you think. The more and more you do this, you start asking yourself deep questions about how you're feeling and finding the root cause to the situations where you start blaming others for how you're feeling. And you know what? I know this because I'm deeply reflective of it in my own life. Okay? So let me give you guys a prime example. Let me give you guys a prime example of what happened this week on Wednesday. And it was funny because I actually shared this with my wife last night. So I arrived home from work. From work at 8 o'clock at night. So I've been out since 7:30 in the morning. So that's, a pretty big day, a pretty long day. Not boasting about that, but it's a pretty long day. And then I start, taking things out of my car, and, my hands start getting full. I hop out of the car, shut the door, and I went to go, because my car doesn't have essential locking, okay? So I have to do the old key style and put the key in and turn it. My hands are full, and guess where my keys are? In my pocket. In my pocket. So this is where it all begins, all right? This is where it all begins. So I start placing the things on top of the roof of the car to get my keys out, as you do. You pull the keys out, lock the car, and of course, when you're in the car and you grab everything, you put everything in your hands, everything's pretty, it's gripped well. So when you go to try and do that again, it's not in the same positions, and so what happens is that everything just starts, my water bottle rolls off the top of the roof, my phone drops, and I'm like, starting to get worked up. So I managed to grab everything, and then I walk towards the door. I try to open up the screen door, and guess what? It was locked. And guess where my keys were? It's in my pocket. So I put, whatever was in my left hand, I put it down, grabbed my keys out, and then I picked everything back up again while holding the key, and nothing was going right. The key was just not going in the lock, and it just wasn't working. I had a few goes, it just wasn't working. And guess what? While I was doing this, you could see through the screen door and my wife turns around. And she's looking at me. So my wife is looking at me trying to open this door. And I'm like, in that split second, and this is what this is how I sort of said it internally. I'm like, can someone bloody get up and open this door? Oh, man. And I'm like, can someone get up? And I processed that really quick in my head. And I'm like, okay, let's take a step back. Let's take a step back here. Let's take a step back. Why are you getting angry? Why are you getting angry? Okay. And honestly, this happens in like 30 seconds, but I can process real quick in my head. Like I've done so well to do it, and I'm so proud of it too. So I'm like backtracking back in the car. I had a backpack. I could have put stuff in the backpack. I put some things in the backpack and everything else I was holding. So I was holding the backpack in my hand. What's a backpack for? What can you do with a backpack? You put it on your back, right? Yeah. You put it on your back. That's what you'll do. You put it on your back. But what I did was I put half of the stuff in the bag, and then I carried the other stuff with my hand, and I carried the bag on the other hand. Yeah, and I walked in. I'm like, oh, okay. So that was the first part. And it becomes a handbag now. It's not a backpack. It's a handbag. It's a man bag. And I'm like, okay, well, that's the first step. Okay, that could be a possibility. Okay, well, second one, it's been a long day. It's been a long day. Okay, I'm hungry. Yes, I'm pretty hungry. So in the meantime, I'm processing this all in my head because I'm pretty hungry. What else is there? Is there anything else there I can think of? Oh, maybe it was a hard day supporting clients. Maybe it was a hard day of talking. Maybe there's a lot of energy that's been drained out of me. So you start processing all this stuff. So I step back, put everything in my bag, put on my backpack, and I walk in. Open the door, walk in. Now, what happens is that I could have walked into my home that was just, everything could have been, all exciting. Everyone's happy in the house. Everyone's happy in the house. My wife probably was out hanging out with Shah and Vai at the cafe and sipping on lattes and having banana bread and, looking after the kids, just hanging out with the kids and living the good life. And here I am. Supporting each other. As long as you guys are supporting each other, that's fine. But I was just about to walk into the house and just destroy it. I was about to destroy it because I was about to blame my wife for how I was feeling. Yeah? I could have asked her, hey, babe, can you just come and help me open the door, please? But nah, I didn't think of that. Nah, man. Nah, that's the last thing. I'll try and do it all myself. So, what I love about this part is that Jesus didn't just go home immediately, right? It says here, Jesus didn't go home. Jesus didn't go and he didn't go home immediately. He definitely didn't go hang out with the boys. He went alone to be alone with himself, to decompress and connect with a higher power. Sometimes we just rush home. We just want to get home. And then that's when it all starts. It just starts being a domino effect. Those are our next 2 points. Okay, let's move on to our last 2 points, yeah? From our Quit Blaming Toolkit. And our last 2 points, actually, I got a question here. Well, that's too late now. Okay. We answered that one. Okay, so the next 2 points are the key of hope, remain hopeful, and self-confrontation. All right, so I want you guys to, let's take it back to our story. I want you guys to let's place ourselves in this woman's shoes, okay? She's just been placed in front of Jesus. There's a crowd. And she's being accused of committing adultery. So now the crowd know, and the crowd is most likely going to gossip, in the whole town. Hey, look, they just placed this woman in front of you. Guess what she done? How would you feel being this woman? How would you guys feel being this woman? Yeah, definitely. How would you feel? You know what I actually laugh at the story is that why didn't the scribes bring the other person involved in this in this act of adultery, right? Why didn't the scribes bring the other person? And what amazes me about this woman is that she did not blame anyone for the position she was in. She was about to be stoned, like stoned to death. Let me share with you guys why I think she didn't blame. And I want you guys to keep this in mind. Remember, Jesus is still bent down on the ground, okay? He hasn't given a response yet, okay? Okay. And as they continued to ask him, he stood up and said to them. So remember, Jesus is down, he stands up. He stood up and said to them, "Let him who is without sin among you be the first to throw the first stone at her." And once more, he bent down and wrote on the ground. But when they heard it, they went away one by one, beginning with the older ones. And Jesus was alone with the woman standing before him. Jesus stood up and said to her, "Woman, where are they? Has no one condemned you?" She said, "No one, Lord." And Jesus said, "Neither do I condemn you. Go, and from now on, sin no more." The woman's response, "No one, Lord," suggests to me that she knew who Jesus was and the power to forgive her sin committed. Now let me ask you, do you truly know who Jesus is and the authority that he has? Do you think the Jesus that you have in mind has the power to heal the areas in your life where you are constantly blaming, whether it's in this present moment or in the past? I don't know if there's an ending to the story, anywhere in the Bible. I don't know if there's an ending. But what I know that for the old me, in this woman's situation, I definitely would have been blaming or running away from the situation, lost all hope. And if I was to, get away with, being stoned to death, I definitely wouldn't be confronting myself and asking some deep questions. So these days, this is how I would apply this quit blaming toolkit. Oh, damn. Sorry. I put on the oxygen mask of self-care and start my day by being around the things that give me joy. And that's usually being around the water. Or if I can't get to the water, that's being somewhere quiet in my house. I pay attention to my feelings in this space. The heart of feelings, our first couple of points. And in this space, I confront myself with anything that has been bothering me, during the week. And if it's something that I can't do on my own, my poor cell group would have to cop it all. And when these are done correctly, it allows for you to think carefully. It allows for you to put on the hat of wisdom. In situations that, when you find yourself blaming someone else for how I'm feeling, you say no. And this is something I have control of, and, you guys will need to figure out how that works out for you. And above all, remaining hopeful. It's definitely going to be difficult. You're going to be challenged. You are going to be challenged. But the more and more you practice a routine that works for you, you start to condition the way you think. You start conditioning the way, when you start blaming someone, you start conditioning yourself to ask these questions. 3 words hit home for me while reading through this week's content. And it was blaming, responsibility, and freedom. I'm very vocal about this, but Excel Church, over the past 4 years, have helped me look beneath the surface and resurface the crap that has been beneath the surface for I don't know how long. All the stuff that's been affecting my spiritual journey. The same church has also challenged me and taught me what it means to be loyal to the Most High God. Excel Church have taught me how to create safe boundaries for myself and for my family. Excel Church have given me the tools to find truth. And the reason why I was able to absorb, the reason why I'm able to absorb a lot of this was because I want to change. I want to change. I want to change from unhealthy lifestyle I was living. Change from always thinking that I was a useless father, a useless dad, and a useless husband. Change from all my negative thinking. Change from thinking that the cause of all my problem was because my dad left when I was young. I learned not to put change and blame in the same sentence because it doesn't go. So this is what I decided to do. I chose to stop blaming. Start taking responsibility. And by doing this, I've experienced freedom from my past. All right. If you guys are able to pair up, and on those cards that you guys have, what you guys have written on those cards, this is the last part of our activity. I want you guys to reflect on these questions with your neighbor or someone that's next to you and ask yourselves, in what areas of your life have you been blaming others? And before we leave, I want you guys to come with one small step you can start today to stop blaming a difficult situation in your life. I'll give you guys a few minutes to do this, and I'll close us off in a word of prayer.